We stopped with, what in the world is the Jubilee calendar? I'm going to attempt to make it just a little bit clearer. So let's just briefly look at the Jubilee calendar. God says count off 7 sevens in Leviticus 25. Count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbath years amount to a period of 49 years. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Do you know where we got the name for the calendar? Jubilee calendar. Right from this verse. Here's what it looks like. Don't panic, because you're going to see it again. It does look confusing. Here are 49 years, and they equal 1 Jubilee cycle. 10 Jubilee cycles equals 490 years. You get that, of course, by multiplying 10 times 49. 490 years. 10 complete Jubilee cycles equals 1 Jubilee day. First, we have to answer a question on whether or not it's 49 or 50 years, because there are many, many scholars who believe that it's 50 years and not 49. So I had to prove it to myself who was right. So I started with Bible proof number 1, that a cycle equals 49 solar years. And here's the scripture. The Babylonian captivity, which was from 605 to 536 BC, lasted 70 years because Israel violated 70 Sabbath years. You'll find that in Leviticus 26 and 2 Chronicles 36. God reckoned the apostasy of Judah and Israel to be 430 years. Remember when Ezekiel laid down on his side at a day for a year? The number of Sabbath years in 430 years is 70. So this proves mathematically to a bean counter that 1 Jubilee cycle must be a repetition of 7 sevens, which is 49 years. And here it is broken down. Here's the 430 years. It's broken down into cycles. Each cycle has 49 years. We just learned that. But notice here in the last cycle, cycle number 9, to get to 430 years, it wasn't a full cycle. There was only 38 years in the last cycle that came up to 430. And the Sabbaths total, 8 in each cycle. The last cycle, they were only 6 Sabbaths. So that's a total of 70 Sabbaths. Yeah. Remind me, Sandi, why there's 8 Sabbaths. I had to back up. I say, whoa, 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 what do you mean 8 Sabbaths? Aren't there 7 Sabbaths and sevens? That didn't make sense to me. Why was there 8 Sabbaths? Here you go. 7 Sabbaths in 7 years. 7 Sabbaths of 7 years. The year of Jubilee, the 50th year, was also a Sabbath rest. So you add your 7 together with the 50th year, which is also the first year of the next cycle, and you have a Sabbath rest. So you have now 8 Sabbaths in one complete cycle. And please make a note that the Jubilee week always begins with Sunday, just like any other week always begins with Sunday, and ends with Sabbath. So Bible proof number 2 for 49 years instead of 50 was Pentecost. The annual feast of Pentecost was a shadow of the Jubilee calendar. Now, does this look familiar? Looks like what we just saw. Here's your 7 weeks. And here's Pentecost, which was the 50th day, which is always on Sunday. another Sabbath rest. So this is just a little baby Jubilee calendar. And this is our second Bible proof of the 49 years and not 50. The Jubilee calendar started with the Jews' exodus from Egypt in 1437 BC. It ended in 1994. In the Jubilee week, there are 490 years in each day for a total of 3,430 years. See this little 490 years here? That's a Tuesday in the week of Jubilee days. This Tuesday is the 70-week prophecy in Daniel 9 of the 490 years. During the Jubilee week, a day equals a year in Bible prophecy. After the Jubilee week, time is literal at a day for a day. Is the calendar study totally new to you? You're not sure if it's even valid? It wasn't to me. Yet. Well, that's fair enough. Here's a suggestion. 1 day equals 1 year during the Jubilee week. And 1 day equals a literal day after 1994 until today. And being assertive, this becomes some kind of a rule, but I don't want you to accept it or reject it until you've seen it actually being used. You have to see for yourself if the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation don't make a lot more sense by using this rule. You owe it to yourself to investigate it and to see if it makes more sense. Don't ever take anyone's word for it. The Exodus from Egypt was 1437 BC. How do we know this? We see many dates from Bible scholars and historians, and they're all over the map. Sometimes they're thousands of years apart. What is it that we know that they don't know? God's clocks and the Jubilee calendar. Now remember that answer. Let's put that date of 1437 BC to a test. Let's assume you're paid for your job every Friday. Let's just use this month. You were paid on the 4th of July. You were paid on July the 11th. You were paid yesterday, and you're going to get paid again next Friday. You can look back several months or even years and know when it was each and every day that you got paid. You can also go to all of your calendars in the future and look at them for months or years to come, and you're going to know each and every paycheck that you're going to receive. The same principle applies today. If you can identify one single Jubilee year, then you can identify each and every one of them. The Bible mentions the presence of a Jubilee year during the 15th year of King Hezekiah. We find that in Isaiah 36 and 37. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked and fortified cities of Judah and captured them. This will be a sign for you, O Hezekiah. This year, meaning your 14th, you will eat what grows by itself, and the second year, which is your 15th year, what springs from that. But in the third year, sow and reap, plant vineyards, and eat their fruit. This is where history will now serve as another witness to help prove our date. History actually proves that Sennacherib came to power around 705 BC. What this means is that the 14th and 15th year of Hezekiah has to occur after 705 BC. The 70 weeks of Daniel will confirm this if we count backwards each Sunday year that 702 BC was the Jubilee year mentioned in Isaiah. Remember your Friday paycheck? Here are some Sunday years. A lot are going to look very familiar to you. 1994, the end of the Jubilee week. 1798 was a Sunday Jubilee year. 538 was a Sunday Jubilee year. 34 AD was a Sunday Jubilee year. 27 AD was a Sunday Jubilee year. 457 BC was a Sunday Jubilee year. And going back in time, so was 1437 BC. We all know that 27 AD was the appearing of the Messiah. You're going to see that. What a wonderful time in a Sunday Jubilee year. The 70-week prophecy of Daniel began in 457 BC. The 1,260 years of persecution was from 538 to 1798. How perfect is God? From 1437 BC to 1994, not only is it a Jubilee week, it's 70 complete Jubilee cycles. So we're looking at the Exodus in 1437 BC. Let's date the Exodus again. Jewish scholars say it was around 1450 BC. There's a book called The Exodus Case, written by Leonard Mueller, that says 1446 BC. The circumstances of King Tut's death and burial, if you research those, you are going to find overwhelming evidence that he was the firstborn of the Pharaoh who freed the Israelites. That Pharaoh's name was Amenhotep III. In the archaeology documents and relics is a letter from his widow to the Hittite king that her husband and son are both dead. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Amazing discoveries, as well as many other ministries, assert the 1450 BC date. But we find more evidence in God's great clocks. This is where history again will attempt to prove the date. You never leave a rock unturned. God reckoned the Jubilee cycle at the Exodus. The 70 weeks of Daniel are synchronized. The 702 BC Jubilee year is synchronized. And 1437 BC is the only year that conforms with the reigns of kings And we have that study. It's another study that if you care to see that during Q&A, we can see that. 1437 BC becomes the only year that qualifies for the date of the Exodus. So let's look at the 70 weeks of Daniel. Daniel 9:24, God said, 70 weeks are decreed for your people. Why did God use the term weeks? Couldn't he have just said 490 years? Those who operated within God's clocks given to Moses, they would know. If God told us 490 years, we would have no idea what year the prophecy began and when the Messiah would come. Weeks have a synchrony that years do not have. They begin in a Sunday year. That's the first clue. Now, Letty, from the time that you built Faith Fellowship until the last new moon, you were pastor. How long have you been pastor? Are we going to know? How many times has Faith Fellowship been built? So we don't know how long. Same way in Daniel 9:25. From the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, it will be 60, which is 60, and 2 weeks, total of 62 weeks. Just as Letty built the church more than once, there were 4 decrees to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. So how are we to know which decree God used to begin the start of the timeline in this prophecy? The Bible speaks of 4 decrees. Artaxerxes gave one in the spring of 457 BC. He gave another one in 444 BC. Cyrus gave one in 536 BC. And Darius gave one in 519 BC. Which decree meets the specifications in Daniel 9? God's language is our answer, using weeks instead of years. So is it 490 years or is it 70 weeks? If the language was 490 years, we would never know which decree was the correct one. So God divided the 69 weeks, and I'm going to show you how he did that. He was so clever. Until the appearing of the Messiah, and he divided it up into 7 weeks plus 62 weeks in Daniel, and he did it for a reason. Because 49 years is one complete Jubilee cycle, those looking for the Messiah would know to watch for the decree that began in the spring of a Jubilee cycle or a Sunday year. And everyone was out on the River Jordan in 27 AD asking John the Baptist if he was the Messiah, because they knew that 27 AD was the year that it was to be. So only one decree historically aligns with the specifications in this prophecy. 457 BC was a Sunday year of Jubilee. How can we prove this? Remember your Friday paycheck? 702 BC was a Sunday Jubilee year. Once you know one, you can now prove every one previous and every one thereafter. Here's a little chart of the 70 weeks. 457 BC was a Sunday Jubilee year. 7 sevens, or our 49 years, goes to 406 BC, which was another Sunday Jubilee year. 62 sevens goes to 27 AD with the appearing of the Messiah. And then another Sunday Jubilee year in 34 AD. Now, the end of the prophecy was actually in 33 AD. I just threw in the 34 AD to just show you it was another Sunday Jubilee year. The 69 weeks actually runs from 457 BC to 27 AD, the appearing of the Messiah. The 70 weeks prophecy runs from 457 BC and extends on to the end of 33 AD. Right here we have the 7 sevens, which are 49 years, which are the one Jubilee week. Then God says, and 62 sevens. That's 434 years. So when we're done, we add everything up. We have 49 years. We have 434 years. And then we add in the final 7 years, the 70th week, for a total of 490 years. Now, watch this. Isn't there a lot of activity here? There's a lot going on in that 70th week. So I guess I'm going to have to break it down so you can tell what all those little things are. The 70th Jubilee week. Why do millions of Christians take the most significant time in Christian history and bring it into the future 2,000 years later? Is time not continual? Does Monday follow Sunday? Does the 14th follow the 13th? Does June follow May? Does 2014 follow 2013? The 70th Jubilee week follows the 69th Jubilee week. They know nothing about God's timing, is the answer. That's why they do that. They know nothing about his timing. They know nothing about God's clocks and the Jubilee calendar. Here's the 70th Jubilee week. I've put some of these words in brackets so that they become just a little clearer. In Daniel 9, and he, Jesus, and I say he, Jesus, because Hebrew grammar means that we are referring to who we were just speaking of in the previous paragraph, and we were talking about the anointing of the Messiah. So this is he, Jesus, shall confirm the covenant, and that was a blood covenant with Abraham, for 1 week. This is the week we're talking about. And in the midst, which is the middle of this 70th week, that he, Jesus, shall cause the temple sacrifice and oblation to cease, because Jesus became the lamb, and the temple sacrifices were no longer needed. Again we have, why do millions of Christians say this is the Antichrist, signing a peace treaty for 7 years? They know nothing about God's bilateral and unilateral covenants. They know nothing about God's temple services and the plan of salvation. They believe in dispensationalism, which means different periods of time God saves different people in different ways. There's a different plan. They know nothing about God's clocks and the Jubilee calendar. So our 70th week begins in a Sunday Jubilee year, which was 27 AD, that Jesus was baptized in the fall in the Jordan River. That 70th week ended in 33 AD which was a Sabbath year. That means 28 AD was a Monday year, 29 AD was a Tuesday year, 30 AD was a Wednesday year, 31 AD was a Thursday year, and 32 AD was a Friday year. Jesus died in the middle of the 70th week. That is Wednesday. There are 3.5 years for a total of 7. And God's spring-to-spring calendar begins in Nisan 1 in that Wednesday year, and it ends in Adar 30. Some scholars declare that 31 AD was the year of crucifixion. Some declare 33 AD to be the year. God needs 2 witnesses, and so do I. 30 AD has 2 witnesses, and they are the sun and the moon. Again, on day 4, remember God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." Here is one of the calendars from 30 AD in the month of March. In the month of March in 30 AD, the equinox fell on Thursday, March the 23rd. It actually occurred at 1749 on Wednesday, March the 22nd. But because God's day begins at sundown, this means that this was actually Thursday the 23rd, the following day. Now, the first new moon on or after this equinox occurred, what a coincidence, on the same day. That does rarely happen, by the way. Usually it can be as many as 29 days later, because the moon takes 29 days. Occurred on Thursday, March 23rd. So that became their Nisan 1, the first day of spring, the first quarter. And that is when Jesus, using his Father's way of timekeeping by the new moon conjunction, celebrated the feast, including the Passover. Now, over here we have 2 days later, the rest of the Jewish nation observing Passover, but they're going to start with the crescent moon, which was 2 days later. That occurred on Saturday. Constantine actually refers to the fact that the Jews frequently observed 2 Passovers in the same year, and he used this anomaly to prevent Christians from depending on the Jews to set the date of Easter. We find this source in Eusebius. Now, this is the month of March in 30 AD, and we're going to just flip over to the beginning of April, continue on in the days, and this becomes Crucifixion Week in April 30 AD. So Jesus is observing the Passover according to the new moon conjunction. So Wednesday, April 5th, becomes Nisan 14, 14 days later from our Nisan 1. Thursday, the 6th of April, becomes Nisan 15. And Friday becomes Nisan 16 on April the 7th. Now, the actions of the Jews and their use of the crescent moon is actually consistent with the course of events that's described in the 4 Gospels. Jesus was crucified on the day when the national Passover lamb was slaughtered, which was Friday, April 7th, AD 30. At the same time that the Jews were slaying their lambs for their Passover, Jesus died as the Lamb of God on the real Passover. He celebrated Passover 2 days prior.